Welcome back to the first episode of the Stack Supplement Podcast in what seems like forever. Clearly, I haven't done this for quite a few weeks, 2 months now maybe. We took the equipment on the road for the Arnold and just got slammed, and then when I came back, the funny thing is I recorded an episode and then it blanked out during recording, and then I was like, okay, screw it. So then we went on for a big European trip to FIBO and visited a whole bunch of supplement companies, nutrition brands while we were out and about, and finally made it back after all this time. It's been quite a break per se. And yeah, as I always say, I'm going to try and do a little more consistently because that was a pretty big jump. But we got this one back straight into it, straight off the bat. And we're going to start off with news that is pretty, as always, admin stuff. If you've been following the website, as always, we have just been slamming out content, keeping up to date with everything in the industry, expanding the horizons too, adding a few brands that just weren't previously on there within the sports nutrition realm in terms of pre-workouts and protein powders, as well as energy drinks and pretty much everything in between, functional foods and whatnot. There was a lot that we definitely missed during that break, and we're going to jump straight into it though with a bit of news from the 2 weeks, but mostly from the week prior, just to get straight into it. But on the admin side, we have announcements for the Arnold Sports Festival in 2026, which is going down March 7th, I believe it is, 6th to the 9th, because it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It is going to be running the first full week of March rather than this year, where we had it tailing in between February and March. Next year, it is indeed our first full week of March. Usual days, Thursday, Friday, or Expos Friday to Sunday, and the Stack Pavilion will be there. I will jump into a little bit on that. We haven't got too much to confirm right now. Well, we do, we just won't. But for those who didn't catch originally the Stack Pavilion and what it was about, so for brands at least, instead of kind of giving them the space and then letting them sort of find the pieces that they need to make their booth, for the Stack Pavilion, we have an exclusive package. So you kind of just pay the one price, and then everyone on the Arnold team, including myself, of course, we get everything sorted, whether that's power, carpet, furniture, banners, frames, everything is done by us, and we make sure it's there so when people turn up, you know, they've paid the one price. There aren't any surprising hidden costs that at least we're not given heads up on, and it's all set up and good to go. They just bring their people and product in, it's ready to fly. And we have pretty much secured that for next year, the 2026 Arnold Sports Festival. And in addition to that, we have a newer size being added. Previously, the Stack Pavilion limited brands to 10 by 10, 10 by 20, 10 by 30. And these were the packages outlined. We have been allowed to go 20 by 20 and potentially slightly larger. There is difference in how it's set up, but in essence it allows brands to have that larger presence, whether they utilize it for storage, putting products in behind a little space or whatever, or they just use it to have more fans and visitors at their booth, or just more activations. It'll be very seamless as well, so we're still having that same height, same kind of spaciousness of what we have in the current pavilion. It'll just have that larger presence. And if you were at the Arnold Sports Festival this year, you would have seen one of the brands did have the 20 by 20 space. That was Bear Bells. The Bear Bells Nocco split. They had a full 20 by 20 that backed on to Pump Source. It was last minute, but it was pretty much, that's what's going to be next year. So yeah, any brands that are interested, reach out. We obviously give first right of refusal to everyone who's been in the Stack Pavilion before. So all of the guys that were there, or the brands that took part this year, they'll be reached out to, checked in to see if they want to come back, and then same again for the people previous year, and then we'll open it up to those who have basically reached out first. So yeah, looks like it's going to be all good to go. We're still also coordinating big brands or any brands that want to do a larger presence at the Arnold Sports Festival, which we did indeed help again this year and the year before with the likes of Jocko, FitCrunch, My Protein and whatnot. So anything Arnold, reach out to me. We also have the UK going down. We're still sorting out what if we'll be doing a pavilion there. But any questions on that front, you can reach out to us. Very brand side stuff. So if you're here for the consumer updates and the product updates, we're now jumping into that now. And we're going to kick things off with My Protein, who basically expanded its collaboration with Mueller. I think it's called Mueller. the dairy giant, the dairy legend. It's got the Mulle. They've been in the business of dairy products for a while. Obviously, they do mainstream stuff, but last year my protein teamed up with them to do a bunch of functional foods. There were yogurts, I'm trying to remember what else they had actually. I know the yogurt was a core part. They had a pudding. And end of last year, they introduced a more meal replacement shake. Now they have done a more protein specific drink. Now it's still not like high protein, absolutely no carbs. It is still somewhat in the meal realm, I would say, with plenty of protein and low carbs, but not completely no carbs. And so yeah, they've dropped 2 new products with Mueller. The first one is indeed called Shake. It is a leaner, oh sorry, actually I scrapped that now that I'm reading this. Yeah, so the balance is pretty much protein shake-ish. The protein is high, but then the carbohydrates aren't completely non-existent. They're actually pretty close. So per bottle, you get 25 grams of protein, and then you have 19 carbs, so it's pretty close to a 1-to-1. If it were a pure protein shake, I'd prefer to go 25 lower than 10. Even 10 is pretty high, but it's still very much I would say a meal realm shake. The fat's definitely not as high as that original My Protein Mueller collaboration. And then you got 185 calories. And then in addition to that, My Protein has also done what they've called My Protein Crunch now with Mueller. Now this is a type of product you will probably have seen if you've been to the UK, Europe. Basically they've got it's a little creamy filling in the pot, or I guess yogurt in this case. And then there's a little inclusions, I guess you could call them, on the top, and the idea is you basically rip open the yogurt, throw in the little bits and pieces, and that's what My Protein and Mueller have done with Crunch. Now it comes with a vanilla yogurt at the bottom, and then the pieces on top are crunchy, here we go, I'm gonna have to rattle this off because it's quite an intricate one. So the yogurt is vanilla, and then on top they have crunchy chocolate pieces. And then there's another flavor where it's strawberry yogurt, but then you get chocolate granola pieces. Now the breakdown on this is obviously a bit different from the shake. The protein comes in at 32, well hold on, sorry, the protein is 20 grams, yep, my bad. 20 grams, the usual 20, 25, 20 grams of protein per pot. Then the carbs sit in at 32, and it's a fair amount of that is sugar at 25 grams. So definitely more of your, closer to that original My Protein Mueller meal replacement shake. I think that one was called Complete. But obviously you're getting that trade-off that this is a food, this is a delicious treat. Knowing I've had many of these little pots flip over stuff before, and you know, and Mueller's been around for a while and it's done this for plenty of years, so it will taste good. Moving on quickly, we're going to jump over to the team at BSC in Australia, Body Science previously. They have come out with a protein bar. Now, I had a feeling there was a bigger one out there, but this is probably the biggest I've seen. So they came out with the highest protein bar, again, that I had seen, at 48 grams of protein. There is one bigger. There are some other protein snacks that are bigger too, if I recall correctly, in Australia, which is BSC's home country. They have the XL protein cookie, and I think that sits at 50 grams, may even be bigger. But so BSC has come out with a bar, 48 grams of protein. Now, whether or not tastes amazing, I think this is probably not the point on this one. You'll find, and I've said this previously, when you get products that are too functional. The David protein bar is a great example. It is extremely functional, great protein to calorie ratio. It doesn't taste as good as like a Bear Bells or even some of them other candy bar style ones out there, but the function supersedes the flavor. And so yeah, I would think that's much the case here in this BSC bar. You get 48 grams of protein per piece. It's 92 gram bar. So it's not like a 48 and 150. This is a 48 protein in a pretty lean setting. 48 to 92 is well above 50%, and most protein bars sit around 25, 30s, definitely not above 50. And again, as I was saying, whenever you have more protein, the flavor goes out the window, the functionality takes over. And so you see this, and I can see myself grabbing this, seeing if I need 48 grams of protein, let's pick it up. I don't expect it to taste amazing, but I feel like I need that protein. So the 48 grams of protein comes alongside 13 grams of fat. And what's the carbohydrates at? 2.6 to 3.3, but it is worth noting in Australia they don't count fiber in the carbohydrate total. So I can't remember exactly what the count is, but you'll see it on the label. They actually have a breakdown of everything. It's not like they just don't count it, but they do list it and all that stuff. And the calories come out at 388. So it's pretty lean. 50 grams of protein to 388. That's a good deal. I mean, 50, let's just round it up to 50. That's 192 calories coming from, sorry, it's 192 calories coming from protein, the rest non-protein. It's a pretty lean snack. And again, I don't expect this to taste as good as some of their other stuff, because BSE does make some good tasting products, and especially functional foods. But yeah, the game here is the functionality. And yeah, it comes in 3 flavors. You can get it now in Australia. The next story we're going to shoot over to is Prime. Logan Paul and KSI's hydration behemoth Prime has come out with, well, not come out with yet. They have previewed, or at least we've got details on a preview of a product called Prime Rapid Rehydration. Now, if you remember, obviously Prime, everyone knows they first came out with their drink, but then shortly after that, they came out with a stick pack version. And I think they made a pretty entertaining little point when they did that video, and they said that we put in 1 milligram more of total electrolytes compared to liquid IV, so that they could literally say they one-upped liquid IV. Now that was very entertaining and very fun. But now in Prime and Rapid Rehydration, they've basically just blown that one out of the water in terms of total electrolytes. So the goal here is, I guess as the name implies, a more premium and more advanced supplement, and that will reflect in the price. This won't cost as low as the regular Prime hydration sticks. And so you get a total, I'm pretty sure that 1.1 grams of electrolytes in total, breaking down to 600 sodium, 400 potassium, and then the rest from calcium and magnesium. And so she's a pretty juicy one in terms of electrolyte count. When you get into the 4 figures, that's respectively high. Now the balance is a key component there, but their game here is indeed to make this a more, I guess, serious or premium offering. And it'll be launched in 3 flavors, none of which you could find for any other Prime product. And those flavors are Glacier Orange, Berry Citrus, Rush, and Ocean Cherry. And they've kept the consistency with the clean nutrition at the very least. So there's just 2 grams of sugar, nice and low, and minimal calories. So the game is indeed very much that same approach that you got in the regular Prime hydration sticks, with great electrolyte sources, low sugar, practically none. But then they've just maximized the electrolyte count in this. So if you're a fan of Prime, or even if you're just after a more robust hydration solution, this will be where you want to head in terms of Prime. The next story we're going to close, second to last story we're going to finish out with, comes from Purus Labs. Now, there was a lot of hype into this one, because when I first saw it, I was pretty pumped, mostly just purely on the name. So they announced a product called Noxygen Black. And if you know anything about pump pre-workouts, Noxygen was one of the original hits, really. They obviously became even more known when they put it into capsules, but Noxygen was just the pumps, the original concentrated solid pump pre-workout. It was very simple, glycerol and nitrates. I think they might have had betaine in the original as well, but it was a very simple, straightforward formula that just worked. And yes, it did clump. It was glycerol powder, so it did clump. The capsules don't have that issue, but it did clump. And it's been around for, Jesus, over a decade now. And it is one of the core standard ones, especially when they put it into capsules. I still believe that was one of the products that inspired the many pump capsules we've seen today, even though it's become more rapidly growing in recent years. I think it was the pump capsules that really kind of just, you could have this as another pump avenue kind of thing. And so they announced Noxygen Black, and my suspicion was it was either mixed with stimulants, or you're going to get a heftier version, like a premium Noxygen. And it was indeed the latter. Noxygen Black is essentially a more advanced version. Now, I will admit, and I had this discussion with someone on the comment section, would have liked to have seen a stepped up pump side, because it's like, again, the name implied to me would think, hey, Noxygen or Noxygen Black. And now the pump components of each supplement are relatively similar. They differ in amounts, but they are relatively similar. So not a drastic difference. You probably could have had just more Noxygen, like a heap scoop or whatever, to equal this, but there is a side to it that justifies the black edition, and then also the extra cost. So Noxygen Black is basically, so you still get glycerol and nitrates. There's no betaine in this one, but then I guess it is betaine nitrate. And so the breakdown per serving on Noxygen Black, 3.2 grams of hydromax glycerol, so more than your standard Noxygen. And then you have 2 grams of NO3T betaine nitrate. I'm pretty sure it was the regular powder is a split of sodium and betaine nitrate, if I remember correctly. Just going off the top of my head, but yeah. And so you get a shuffling around of the nitrates. You get sodium nitrate is the more concentrated one, and you realistically only get betaine nitrate here, and then you get more glycerol. So it's a similar balance, similar mix, similar set of ingredients. Not a drastic, like we've got vasodriver in there too, and some other peptide pump, something else in there. It is just very similar ingredients. And then the difference maker is the fact that there's also creatine in here. So this is very much a creatine infused Noxygen. A little bit extra on the pump side, but creatine is the signature addition, and it comes in at a full 5 grams per serving. Classic creatine monohydrate, so basically Noxygen and creatine combined. It is priced a little bit more, $34.99 for 30 servings versus $24.99 for 40 servings of the regular version. So you pay, what did we work it out? So you basically pay 86% more per serving. However, it's $16 extra in total. So it's kind of like if you want to buy Noxygen for 40 servings, and you can buy a creatine for 10 to 20. In that realm, it's roughly the same. But as I said, the balance of pumps is slightly different. So I wouldn't be surprised if people tend to like this one a little bit better. But yeah, now available direct and in retailers. The last area we have is the beast behind us, which actually started the last time we did a podcast, or the week before. So at the Arnold this year, they put out a little, I think it was like a drum, and it had samples inside. And someone told me, they're like, hey, there's some C4 samples at a gym down the road from the Arnold, and there was one at GNC store. And so I just went down to the gym, checked him out, got in a quick session and grabbed one of the samples, and it was for a pre-workout called C4 Alphabomb. And this was back in March, early March. So now this has actually just come to market, but all of the details had been trickled out. All of the details had been pretty much revealed with that sample, because on the front they put the ingredients. It's a pretty interesting mix. So they've got 8 grams of carnosine beta-alanine, a never before seen dose of beta-alanine, plus it's carnosine beta-alanine, so it's not your standard. They also have Dura9 D9 caffeine, which is a different, we put a full breakdown on the site. It is different from your standard caffeine, but at the same time in C4 Alphabomb, it is in a blend, and it's at the back end of the blend. So they've got a blend of 3 sources of caffeine, and Dura9 is the smallest one of the lot. So you don't actually know how much of it is Dura9, but it is the smallest of all 3. They've also got I think it's the Valox citrulline blend is in there as well. I'm trying to remember straight off the top of my head everything. Here we go, yeah. So there's 8 grams of Valox blend of citrulline and arginine, then you got a gram of beta power betaine, peptide pump at 200 milligrams, huperzine, alpha yohambine, and yeah, that's the rundown. The peptide pump, carnosine, and caffeine, or Dura9, are the big stars of the show on this one, and are quite an interesting infusion. And I did try it after I got back from the Arnold. I didn't use it for that workout. I kept that sample safe. And I will say it's mostly the energy focus that I got. There was a bit of performance, a bit of pumps, but those were the sensory side was the standout, and they were the ones that really kind of slapped me in the face. I would definitely say it's probably a better energy and focus C4 than I've had before. Not as comprehensive as C4 Ultimate, which I still dearly love as like an international one as well. Where if you go in the world, that one is just one of the most reliable. And yeah, so it's coming out. Well, it's just launched now. Like I said, details are at the Arnold. They teased it all the way up to then, but as you said, we know what it looks like. We know what was in it, and it comes in a very unique ball bomb shape, as you can see. So it's it's gonna pop extremely well on shelves, and it's actually quite a big bottle. It's not a small thing. I've seen the pictures of it in hand. And yeah, it's out now. $54.99 is the regular retail price. 3 flavors to choose from. Usual 20 servings, 40 servings split, so you get 20 for the max of that 8 grams of carnosine. Or you want a half down, you get 4, up to you. But yeah, $54.99. And in saying that, they have launched it through their site at a pretty crazy price. So when I was on there, you add it to cart, it gives you a discount that drops it straight down to $49.50. And then if you add An athlete coupon, that's right. I just grabbed one of the ones from there, basically the Instagram page, who they'd hooked in. We even have one on the site, and that brought it down to $42. So that, to be honest, if you're paying a regular cost of C4 Ultimate, which I believe is around that price, go on the site and grab this one. It's be a nice way to experience something new. You might like it more than the other C4s. You might not, but at $42, this is a pretty damn good deal, pretty robust pre-workout. And they've really done a lot of things different. Like I said, the mixing of the beta-alanine, which the pins and needles weren't that bad, insane, but some people do experience them more than others. So yeah, give it a shot at 42. I just, like I said, I like how it's not a straightforward thing. It's not a 6 grams of citrulline, 3.2 beta-alanine, 300, like it's not a recipe we've seen before. And anytime I can try something different, I do. And I did like the alternative experience that they had in that, mostly for the energy and focus. I wouldn't go in expecting mind-blowing pumps or anything like that, but the energy and focus, this thing does smack. So you can get it now. That offer, all those deals are on C4's official website, so cellucor.com. And again, we have the links to all the offers and the discount codes on the site. And their subscription, if you're so inclined, brings it down even further. I think it was 30% off, which took it to like $38. So it's a great way to introduce yourself to a new supplement. But for this episode, that is it. As I always say and always appreciate, thank you for listening. Make sure you share the website. That's all we ask. Share the website, visit the website, sign up to the emails, sign up to the rewards program. But make sure you visit the website every day, 2 times a day. When you're in the gym, when you're not in the gym, when you're on a break, whatever it may be, share with your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, everyone that needs to know about everything in sports nutrition. That's what you gotta do. That's all we ask. And we look forward to having you back next time.